Last time on Dragon Ball Z.
Since I've bought this car, I've had problems. Since I've bought this car, I've always had brake problems with this car. So specifically a low and soft pedal. I don't know why my hand, this is low and soft, I guess. So why don't we go over some things I've done so far. Alright, cool. Let's talk about some of my braking woes with this car, and then hopefully by the time I go home today, we solve them. So just to recap, ever since I took delivery of this car, I've always had a low and soft pedal. You guys can probably tell that's not the original master cylinder, but I noticed in the original master, the fluid looked perfectly clean like this, so obviously someone tried to bleed it before. I bled it again at the shop, and same thing, no dice. I noticed that when I slowly press the brake, I could get it to go all the way to the floor, but rapid presses, it would build up pressure. So doing some research, I guess it's common if you slowly can press the brake pedal and the pedal goes to the floor. That's probably a good indication that some of the seals in the master cylinder are leaking. This is a R32 GTR master cylinder, and it's, I think, one size up from a R33 GTST. So I got a increased bore for a little more pedal pressure. Took off the old one. Sure enough, it was leaking out the back. Because the pedal went to the floor, it's probably leaking internally too. So regardless, it was time to replace that thing. New brake master. Pedal felt better, but still low. Thanks to GK Tech, I found a video. Apparently the firewalls on Skylines flex a lot. So I got the brake master cylinder brace from GK Tech, and apparently these are pretty much mandatory on Skylines for the amount of firewall flex these things develop or have from the factory. New master, got the brace, bled the brakes again. Now, finally, I have a low but firm pedal. So no dice yet, right? So my old original brake lines were in terrible shape, so again, GK Tech to the rescue. I got their stainless braided brake lines from them. Let's take a look at the rears. Yeah, I'll get some photos up here, but this one line got rid of a bunch of like nonsense and like a bracket and stuff. GK Tech makes a kit that deletes this hard line. I don't know why I didn't just buy that kit, but ended up my hard lines were so rusty and corroded, and at one point it actually started leaking out of this fitting. So I made these hard lines from scratch. All right, so where are we at now? That night that I made those front hard lines, I actually ran out of time and only could bleed the fronts. The brakes feel a lot better. I bet you there's still air in the system, because if I pump the brakes, I get like a pedal a normal brake pedal. So yeah, some decent pads and rotors. I'm gonna bleed the system one more time, go for a drive. I'm praying that fixes it, because I like a car with brakes that work. Most people do. All right, so one other thing I completely forgot to mention, this car has some really rusty and worn out rotors too. And what do I mean by that? So if we take a look at this, the old rotors are already in the recycle bin, but you could tell there was like a big lip from the wear on the rotors, but the pads were fresh. I do a fair amount of pre-vehicle inspections on JDM vehicles here. I don't know why, is this like a Japanese thing or what, to run these rotors past the discard limit and just keep throwing new pads at them. I've had to fight a lot of weird brake issues on, you know, Japanese imports because of weirdo stuff they do. I don't know. You guys let me know in the comments below if this is just like a common Japanese thing to run the rotors past the discard limit. Alright, I stayed way later than I wanted to tonight, and here's the kicker. Seems like every road test I go on with this car, every time I touch something with the brakes, it's always like optimism when I feel the brake pedal, and then slowly things get worse. I noticed coming back to the shop, the pedal got a lot softer towards the end of the road test, and then also just parked, I could get the pedal to sink all the way again, and I was like, whoa, I bet you something's leaking again. Let's see. All right, so this axle, the JDM passenger side, has always been my problem child since I bought this car. So what were some weird things? Originally, that bolt was missing. This threaded fitting right there was essentially cross-threaded. Not to mention, like, the line was super rusted. And then someone didn't use a flare wrench and this was stripped out, or I should say rounded off. When I made these lines, I took a M10 by 1.0 tap, and it looked like I was able to clean up the threads, but when I came back on my road test just now, I could see this slowly weep, and tightening this some more, it just got looser. Ended up these threads pulled out of this caliper, and there's no real US counterpart to these calipers, and the Z32 is actually a different caliper. I think based off of these mounting ears. So in short, I think R32 GTR uses an interchangeable caliper, not exactly the same, but it'll work. But yeah, long story short, this guy's stripped out and I'm gonna need at least one new caliper. All right, so what's the moral of this story? I think ever since I've owned this car, I think I've said owning this thing has been like working on a big Corolla, just because everything's like a surprise or like hard to find or unusual. Who else has messed with it? Everything's rusted. 88.6 Corolla guys have a roller life. I'm not sure what classic Skyline guys have. Certainly having a roller life moment right now. If you got a lead on some R32 GTST or R32 GTR front calipers, please let me know, because there's a set on eBay right now for like 500 bucks, and if you look at the construction, I still gotta pay for all that, so I don't have that 500 bucks right now. But yeah, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoy my pain. Yeah, hopefully we get this resolved, or not, and the car sits. Either one. Dexter, come here. I'm gonna shoot a movie today. Look at that. Look at that.